Mayor Michelle Wu, thank you so much for being with us.
Welcome to my office.
Well, we just heard you play the piano. What's the role that piano and music have had in your life?
I am the oldest kid in an immigrant family, and when my parents first came to this country, they didn't speak English very well, and in some ways, music was not only how they had met, but also how they could still feel connected to community here. Despite language barriers, despite other cultural barriers, music transcended everything. And so I remember being very little and my mom joining a community choir in Chicago, and later I found her score that they were singing from, and she had transliterated all the words from English into Chinese sounds so she could keep up. But so since I can remember, I've been playing piano since probably 4 or 5 years old, and it's been a source of comfort, a source of strength, a source of just finding myself.
You had this piano moved into your office right after inauguration. I understand you played it before the debates.
Yep, a way to clear my head and just be grounded.
What is the moment when you're playing the piano, you're looking out at the city of which you are now mayor? How does that all coalesce?
In some ways, it's shocking, remembering what life felt like when I first started piano lessons, that my parents felt excluded and shut out from so many of the systems that we never could have imagined that one day I would be involved in government, much less politics, naturally introverted and much prefer listening than talking and much prefer playing than to anything else.
So I was struck walking in here this morning to see arts emblazoned is the moment you walk in City Hall, drawing people's attention. You have art behind you here. There are ceramics just outside your office. How central are the arts to your administration?
This is not only how we hope that we can connect people and help heal after such a trying, difficult 2 years and beyond, but this is really going to be central and key to our economic recovery as well. Cities can no longer depend on people to just have to be near where the companies or the jobs are. We have the chance to show how Boston can really lead the way in this post-pandemic recovery and economy. We're going to be the city where you can't miss out except being there in person to enjoy the shows and see the public art and enjoy our restaurants and cultural scene here. That is critical to drawing people back in and making sure that we can continue building that foundation of what it means to be a creative, dense, welcoming, inclusive city.
So much of that is tied to money, and I know from the conversations I've had over the last 2 years how hard hit the arts organizations are. How is the money going to get to them to be able to thrive in a hopefully post-pandemic city?
We have tried where possible to use some of the federal relief funds to create that relief directly for our artists and creatives here in Boston, but we need sustained long-term revenue as well for the arts. And so that will take not just this one-time federal investment, but identifying and continuing to advocate at the state and federal level for ongoing sustainable support.
You've done that already with the MBTA and free ridership. Will some of the same mechanisms apply to how we fund the arts?
Absolutely. And so we are still looking at the what's called the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan funds that have been made available. There are several $100 million that are just a precious opportunity for transformative change in the city. And we intend to put a chunk of that into making sure that we can not only support arts organizations and artists who are in need of immediate relief now, but to really lay the foundation to show how this kind of systemic investment in the arts, large-scale support, could make a difference going forward.
I was really struck to learn that you were a board member of the Boston Gay Men's Chorus.
I am their biggest groupie.
Well, my question about that is, it also allowed you to get a lens into what arts organizations face and what the need is and how hard it is for nonprofits. So how do you apply that to what you're doing right now?
When you host a concert, it is not only the beauty and joy of that moment and that set of audience members who gets to enjoy it, it is the community that's built in creating the chorus and all the practices and rehearsals. It's the businesses that benefit from that event spilling over into the local neighborhoods. It is the ability for those singers to be ambassadors abroad. And yet, in our city, we often ask arts organizations and institutions to give and to pay more than we are investing back in. And so I hope to flip that framework. We're in a city where there's a tremendous amount of generosity, and so much of the funding for the arts community comes through philanthropy or through private donations and contributions. We need to see some demonstrated public support backing that up as well.
I assume you're talking about the pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes.
That's right.
So larger organizations wouldn't have to pay like other for-profit organizations, but you want something from them in exchange.
Yeah, I think these are institutions that shouldn't have to depend on the revenues from ticket sales to fund all of their operations. Every person who gets to enjoy the aquarium or the ICA or some of our grassroots local galleries is contributing that much more back to our sense of Boston being a welcoming, vibrant home to all. And so we should see public support for that. And we also can use that to help open up the doors. I remember stories of how when my parents were first living in Chicago, and they couldn't afford hardly anything, but once a week, the Chicago Art Institute would have a free day open to all. And so that's where my mom would be with me as in the stroller, and to get the chance to be in that world-class space, enjoying beauty, was truly remarkable and foundational for my family.
The biggest issue I have heard from artists and performing artists and theater groups is the lack of space. Artists are having to leave the city because they can't work here. Theater companies find it too expensive to be able to rehearse here. How can you address that?
We are a city that is growing, but not often growing according to a holistic plan. And when we make decisions one by one, the trade-offs that we are passing on for future generations between housing or open space or commercial buildings or live-work spaces, those have generational impact. And so from a larger perspective, we need to have a planning process that really incorporates our creative economy into it. And in the immediate term, it is really providing the stability for artists to be able to afford homes in Boston, to have space, to be intentional about where our studios can stay and thrive. And
finally, when I used to visit Chicago, I would think, I wish Boston could be Chicago in terms of being a public art city. And I think if we're not there, we're almost there at this point, because we have so much that's happening. How do you define what public art is and what it should be in this city?
Public art, to me, is wonder and surprise and community. There are murals going up all across the city now, created by local artists, often produced also by young people in our city. And if we can help spark that sense of connectedness, of the larger world that we are part of, and seeing each other's lives and well-being as connected to our own, then we'll be well on our way on our recovery, and well on our way to being one of the leading city for the arts and for families.
Well, Mayor Wu, thank you so much again for talking about the arts with us today.
Thank you.